Nebraska Preps postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's that big voice guy. That means we're finally starting. Holy smokes. Welcome back to another week of Nebraska Preps postgames with my main man, Jacob Padilla. JP, I don't even know where to start, right? We got districts on the horizons. We had some district-changing games played last week. We've got movers and shakers. We're already starting postseason play this week. Like, what is going on? How are you, my friend?
I'm good. A lot to talk about, obviously. A very eventful final week of the regular season, and now the postseason has finally arrived.
Yeah, let's backtrack just a smidge and talk about some of those games that were actually changed a little bit of the seedings, especially at the top between A1, A2, and A3. One in which we both saw in attendance. We can start right at the previously number one ranked Omaha Westside Warriors.
Yeah, and going to Gretna on Thursday, tough one, and man, the Dragons get it done, 51-45. They have a bizarre resume this year. You look at what they've accomplished, the big wins they have compared to some of the games they've lost. They beat Westside, they beat Prep, they beat Central, and
they beat Bellevue West.
They beat Bellevue West, and they lose to Omaha North twice, and a couple others.
So let me tell you what they're really good at. And this isn't. I'm not talking about pin downs, ball screens, ice and ball. I'm not talking about any of that. You know what they have the ability to do, and you can decide whether this is a good or a bad. They definitely know how to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
For one good time to get up and embrace the moment, they are very, very good at that. I think it's in the cultural DNA. They've embraced this underdog role. They handled that environment much better than Westside did. Westside shot poorly. No Benning, no Meeks. Doesn't matter. You could tell from the opening tip that Gretna was prepared for the moment.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Chandler Meeks, who was sick, was not able to play, was not there. Caleb Benning goes down, hard fall early in the game. I think it was the second quarter. And so that's two of your
top seven.
8-9-man rotation, two of your guys down right off the bat. And they just could not. And Gretna, credit to Bill Hurd and that defensive mind trust over there. The switching zones, they started in their 2-3, then switched it up to 1-3-1, kind of went back and forth throughout. And Westside just settled so much on a night when the shots just weren't falling.
I've never seen them shoot the basketball so many times and not draw iron.
Yeah, there were a few rush ones.
Good open looks. I thought when they finally early, when I felt like they had a good plan for the zone where they let Caleb play from the foul line extended. They missed a couple of those bunnies early with those little diagonals with the guys diving on the baseline. If you can't get the easy ones, you have a tendency to rush everything else because you get the sense you're not going to be open.
Yeah. And that might be what, because it did, like, the actions, it wasn't like they were just standing around.
Yeah.
And, like, they were running some good stuff to
it was good
create
stuff
looks.
Early.
They just, like you said, they missed a few inside, and then they were taking the early clock, there's no shot clock, but they were taking the early threes in the possession, kind of the first available look on a night when they weren't falling. And
I think Westside's inability to get out and convert on transition early was, crowd, the Westside fans are like, oh, are you kidding me? But I think one of the places you did miss some of those good young athletic bodies is you kind of had some odd pairings out running the break, right, where you'd get an odd body and Logan Wilson out on the break, right? It's just like we didn't convert a lot of 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s, and conversely, Gretna played so hard running plays down, right? They were a little discombobulated in the backcourt, and the ball may get bobbled or tipped, and they'd get runouts, and Westside never converted.
Yeah.
I thought Gretna's transition defense was fantastic, and it started early. They just weren't going to concede anything early.
Yeah, it was really fascinating, kind of the defensive back and forth and the different styles. And obviously, we talked about the zone and kind of what that did. You mentioned Tate Advadi. He had 6 of their 9 2-pointers. They had 9 2-pointers the entire game, and 6 of them were. He was the only one that was able to
and got off to the slow start early.
Yeah, he was the only one able to create anything inside the arc. So that's maybe an area where Chandler Meeks would have helped with just another guy that could shoot that gap. He can pull up, hit the little 10-footer kind of over the back line of the zone. So that he might have helped somewhat in that area, at least a little bit. Just another guy to again collapse the zone and make plays for others, but. They just couldn't figure out a way to get the more shots inside the arc. They were 9 of 21 on twos and 7 for 31 on threes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the zone work. They kind of fell into the trap on a night. It's obviously a very good shooting team, one of the best. They weren't hitting in that night. Again, some of them were rushed. Some of them weren't the best looks. They also missed some really good wide open ones too.
And couple of key guys, I felt like, Alec Wilkins was really good for Gretna. One of the few guys that took multiple shots that shot over 50%. He did a really good job, and we'll get to the headliner here in a second in Grant Jansen. But you know what I liked about Alec? He did a really good job. He was like the momentum stopper. Every time you thought Westside was either going to make a run or on the verge of one, he'd get a loose ball, he'd make a nice pass, he'd convert a nice bucket. I felt like he really was the momentum stopper because he got such key timely baskets.
Yeah, he had finished with 10 points, 4-6 shooting. Most of that was in the third quarter when Gretna got off to a 14-6 start after the first quarter. Got off to a great start. Grant Jansen was a big part of that. Westside settled in. They got it back down to 1, and then Gretna in third quarter kind of opened it up, got up to a 36-26 lead after back-to-back threes, the only 2 threes of the game that they hit. And that's where I was talking about Westside's defensive game plan and their execution. They were hounding those guys 3/4 of the court all the way. They could not.
Should have done it the whole game, but I think he was worried about his numbers early, especially after the second quarter.
And that's the other part where missing Chandler and Benning hurts because now you're playing the same guys the entire game, and it's hard to maintain that level of effort defensively and still have legs to knock down those shots late in the game.
How fantastic was Grant Jansen?
Yeah.
I mean, let's listen, the 16 points are great. The 7-9 shooting was great. He got every 50-50 ball. First to the floor, the key loose rebounds, just out hustling guys. Yeah. On that particular night, he was the best player on the floor.
And, again, they were 2 of 5 from 3 because of that defensive pressure. They are a good three-point shooting team. They did not get shots off because of Westside's pressure. They needed interior scoring, and that's what Jansen provided. And obviously you don't really have a great matchup for someone like him with his size. Logan Wilson's a good defender back there, but he's quite a bit slighter than
I think
Grant.
he got outworked.
Yeah.
Right? I was the front court or the 3 that are on the glass as you kind of are sending 3. Sometimes Westside then started to send 4 to the glass. A lot of tip balls, a lot of volleyballs that Gretna was the team to get. I felt like ultimately second chance points really did Westside in.
Yeah, and so Gretna got up 10 in that third quarter. Westside kind of closed to within 4 at the end of the third quarter, and then they kind of opened it up with 5 straight points. An and one from Landon Pekorski off of a great pass from Grant Jansen. Yep. And then Pekorski scored again. Might have been free throws, but scored 5 in a row to open a 7-point game. And then that was basically it. Tate Oddbody hit, I think, scored 4 points to start the fourth quarter. And then Westside did not score again until Tate got a steal and scored with a little over a minute left. They just could not find a way to put the ball in the basket in the fourth quarter.
No answer.
Yeah. And They got a couple of steals. They got some plays down the stretch where Gretna hit enough from the free throw line to kind of hold on to seal that win.
And conversely, who didn't make their free throws?
Well, actually, neither side. Both shot 50%. Gretna was 9 of 18. Westside was 6 of 12.
Gretna was better late.
Yeah. A lot of those came in the fourth.
Yeah. So, I mean, I felt like, again, that's just another testament to them understanding the moment and handling it better.
So that was obviously snapped a 20-game win streak for Westside. Just the second loss of the season kind of changed some things
Thompson
there.
And those guys that were playing on that team that won 23 straight. Your string is still intact, much like the 72 Dolphins popping champagne.
So that was a huge one. And then the other big ones of the week involved Central and Creighton Prep. and started on Tuesday. Millard North went to prep and pulled out a 60-57 win.
Yeah, fantastic game. I aesthetically, it wasn't as pleasing, but the competitiveness, prep gets down early 12-3. They storm back, and it was just kind of back and forth. And, man, how about the good look that prep got at the end of the game with a chance to tie? Like, that's about as good a look as you're going to get, given the fact you need a 3 from O'Malley. That was well done.
And I think Millard North even had a foul to give, too.
Yeah,
so they let penetrate the lane, kick back out, top of the 3. Casey O'Malley got a look, and it just didn't go down. But, yeah, there's no way they should have gotten that clean of a look down 3 at the buzzer. But they did and didn't go in. It was, like you said, back-and-forth game. Prep 6-0 run to pull ahead 52-49 in the fourth quarter. Then Millard North tied it up, and it was kind of back and forth. David Harmon with the big kind of poke away and leak out to take the lead for good at 56-55. Then they got to stop and hit some free throws, and were able to hold on to that one. Like you said, they had a shot at the buzzer, but it didn't go. And, man, that was a fun battle between the big guys. And Luke Jungers.
That's the best I've seen him play.
Yeah.
And he went at Jason Green.
Exactly. That's the part, too. Like, knocked down a couple of jumpers, obviously, but he was so good in the post, putting his shoulder right into Jason's chest, go up and finish with that little jump hook. He scored.
I'm telling you, that's maybe the best performance I've seen him have against or better competition.
He scored 16 of their first 18 points.
Yeah. He was fantastic.
Absurd. Like, he was so good. Finished with 23 and 9 and 12 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3, 8 boards. The rest of the team, unfortunately, scored 34 points on 37 shots. They just could not get those guards going with O'Malley and Martell Evans. And Jason Green, conversely, 20 points, 12 boards, 6 blocks, 4 assists, just another stat
sheet stuffer.
David Harmon had a big, I forgot what, his second or third quarter, he went off and then obviously got that key play late to give them the lead. And Neil Mosser, 12 points, 4 or 5 from 3. He was responding to that 6-0 run with a big 3, got foul line, missed a free throw, but tied it up with that corner 3 on the kick out. And, man, they're a different team when he's knocking down threes to go with Harmon.
Yeah, it just kind of stretches him a little bit, right? It's not as much pressure on Harmon and those guys to get to the foul line, which he's very capable of doing.
Yeah, and then that was Tuesday. Also, Elkhorn South beat Omaha North on that one on Tuesday as well, 68-56.
Omaha North is a hard team to figure out. They only have 2 wins against teams with a winning record, but they're both Gretna.
And it's weird, too, because with what they struggle with, they don't really have much size at all.
Yeah, the Grand Island game wasn't as surprising, having seen both teams to some, because there was just no answer for Trout.
Well, and Henry Burt, 21 and 11 for Elkhorn South, another big, strong-bodied post. You would think Gretna figure out a way to play through Grant Jansen in that one, but whatever reason, it's some weird things. But Elkhorn South playing well to close out the season. Then on Friday.
They are.
Yeah.
That's a team, again, I talk about Central, and they arguably had their best loss of the season, or maybe even the best game of the season as you look at it in the environment they played against in Westside. Those are just 2 teams that I just wouldn't enjoy playing. Gretna's played Westside close twice, so I know what they're capable of from a gritty standpoint. And again, Central seems to embrace the moment. Usually it's those teams that are held in high regard that they typically play their best basketball against.
Yeah. And Friday night, Central and Bellevue West. Bellevue West pulled out 68-57. It was 30-all at halftime.
Yeah.
And then Bellevue West just hit them 23-13 in the third quarter, and that was it. But it's
Bellevue West's spurt ability is pretty good, right? I mean, you kind of held them in check, and Bellevue West goes back-to-back quarters scoring over 20 points, where in the second and the third quarter, Central conversely had their low in the third quarter, where I think they only scored 12 or 13 points.
Yeah, 13.
And Bellevue West erupts. That's just too good of an offensive team, in my opinion, to keep down.
Well, and they held you look at it, both kind of star guards for this team, both were held in check. Josiah Dozer, 13 points on 3 of 12 shooting, and Jay Dawson, 14 points on 5 of 14 shooting. So kind of the 2 main cogs for each team. They had a rough one. P.J. Davis stepped up, 18 points on 6 of 12 shooting. He's really efficient compared to some of his bigger games or games recently. But William Kyle, 17 points, 8 boards, and Evan Inselman, 11 points. So they just got a little bit more from the supporting cast with kind of both star players held in check.
When you're looking at kind of Bellevue West and you talk about the star guards, and obviously it starts with Josiah Dotzler, and 16-4-4 is nothing to shake a stick at, right? But it seems like as of late, he's been relatively quiet. For as dynamic as he is, and he's going to be the focal point of teams every time out on the scouting report. But does those numbers, do those seem right to you?
Well, and the second, like the stretch run for their schedule wasn't as tough, so they haven't necessarily needed him to.
A ton,
so they haven't needed him to kind of take over, and but we certainly know he's capable. And Central followed that one. Difference in that game, Bellevue West 17 of 23 from the free throw line, Central 8 of 11. Neither one were particularly effective from the field. There really was the difference.
How about Dotzler shooting 41% from three?
Yeah, that's that was kind of the next step for him. Like
exactly,
if he can,
that's why I brought it up. Like
and not only just do it while being the lead ball handler too. Like there's a difference between being able to spot up playing off of Chucky Hepburn and shooting 40% and being the guy that's creating everything and then pull up threes or breaking down the defense, kicking out, popping out, and then catching it off the reversal. Like those are different kinds of shots, and be able to shoot that well in that role shows kind of the growth and the improvement for him as a shooter.
Only 6 less threes than Jaden Jackson made, who's got 49 on the season, but Jaden Jackson has taken 16 more threes. So it's like he has shot the ball, in my opinion, from distance really well. Just kind of adding to it.
And that's huge for his growth and the next level.
Because he's already almost impossible to stay in front of.
Exactly. We know what he can do, change of pace and creativity around the basket. So you had the kind of 3-level ability there that makes him even tougher to guard.
Was there a big winner, in your opinion, from the A1, A2, A3 movement? In terms of district opponents? I'm not like chomping at the bit with North as a 2 seed.
Yeah.
And I think they're an A2, right?
They're an A1 with Miller
North.
Yeah.
So, which is an interesting matchup, but was there anything in that little kind of reversal of, because I think Westside went in as kind of the A2 selection, so they flip-flop with the loss to Gretna. Nothing really changes there except for Millard North has a nice road, especially when you have the wild card bonus, and you're in A1.
Yeah, that's the advantage of earning the 1 seed. You get the top district there. It will be interesting. I think you talked about North. I think Lincoln East is is probably the most interesting of those 3 2 seeds to me. North Platte is in A2.
And Westside, of course, has East.
Yeah, and they didn't play during the regular season, and obviously I've talked about Carter Templemeyer before, but 54 points in his last 2 games, so it'll be fun to see him going against those guys perimeter defensive-wise, and we'll see hopefully everybody heals up there for Westside. And
Chandler came back Saturday after missing a fair amount of time being sick and could not play very much. I think he maybe got to the 6 or 7 minute mark. He was sick at the half. So I think getting them this week and kind of it's the way that it's going will do Westside well. Chandler gets a chance to get healthy. I don't think Caleb will get back to practice anytime before Friday. Yeah. So it'll be an interesting shuffle.
Yeah. But I guess the other big one we forgot Saturday, Central and Creighton Prep, Eric Barron's last home game in the regular season as Central's head coach. And it was very similar to the Miller North game for Prep. Tight, back and forth, down to the wire. Luke Jungers had a huge game.
Central's fourth quarter. I mean, that's a team that figured out in a hurry. It was all about closing time.
Well, so, Prep got off to a 15-4 start to the third quarter. to take the lead after trailing most of the first half. Central got it down to 2 points heading into the fourth, and it was back and forth, bucket for bucket. I believe Dawson scored Central's first 13 points of the first quarter. Yep. And then the Central pulled ahead on a and one play on a great set play, back cut from Owit Mammer to put them up by 3. And then they got a stop on Jungers in the post. And honestly, I thought he got fouled about 2-3 times on that move. It was kind of a tough no call. But Central took advantage, went down and hit enough free throws down the stretch that really, when you're going back and forth, one empty possession could be all that takes, because Central went into stall mode after that and were able to close it out at the free throw line. But Dawson finished with 29, really efficient, 5 threes, 7 boards, a couple of blocks, a couple of assists. Jungers built on what he did against Mount North and dropped a career high, I believe, 30 on 10 of 17 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 8 of 8 from the line. Again, going to work in the post, great footwork, showing strength to kind of rip through and finish over the top. And he played so well down the stretch. And I think kind of this last week just shows that these district finals, this state tournament, they've got a chance to be pretty fun, because all these teams, they're pretty close. All these games were anybody's to get this last week of the regular season.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because you take out like 3 or 4 minutes of all these games, and they all could have had different outcomes. Yeah. And in a 32-minute game, your margin for error is not great.
Oh, and then even the one that Central escaped last week.
Good call.
That against Central, or West Side escaped against Central. Again, Central.
Actually, they were only outplayed for about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was the final 4 minutes. Central basically outplayed West Side for 28 of the 32 minutes.
So that's got a chance to set the stage for a pretty exciting postseason here, especially with those top teams once we kind of get things narrowed down here.
Do you have a dark horse? You like the seedings? I'm looking more Lincoln Northeast lands, and they're coming off a little goodwill momentum with the key 3 late. Do you like where they landed in their district seedings?
Yeah, let's see. They are. Which one is that?
You got to go to A6. It's Bryan, Prep, Grand Island, and Northeast.
Yeah, and we saw during the regular season, Prep and Northeast went down to the wire.
That's the one that's got my attention.
And, again, you deal with Trout in the first round, and if Northeast holds on in that one, you go to get another rematch with Prep, and, again, down to the wire. Northeast has kind of fallen off a little bit down the stretch here from where they were. They need, I think, a game winner to beat Fremont, although Fremont played well in the second half of the season. So they're still kind of a hard team to get a read on, but that definitely has the potential to be one of the better district finals.
Yeah, I wanted you to go over to A7, where you got North Star at Papiola Vista South and Southeast and Pius. That's the one that I have the hardest time capping.
Yeah, and
I know South Papiola Vista South just hammered North Star, and I don't know what happened to North Star's roster.
Yeah,
but Papiola South hasn't lost in February.
They've finished the season really strong.
Right? I mean, they got Millard West, Bell East, North, Elkhorn South, Columbus, and North Star.
Yeah.
Now, the schedule isn't daunting.
But Elkhorn South is a good win.
Yeah, and we've seen some teams stub their toe in games that we feel like they should have won. There's got to be something to say for how they're playing in February.
For sure. And Daniel Brocail is playing at a really high level down the stretch. And Bryson Ball shot the ball really well against North Star on Saturday.
If you don't pressure him and let him shoot, he's going to eventually get you. Yeah. And he's just a pup, but he'll get you.
And with how hard Ian Medic and Daniel Brocail play and the way that those guys can shoot the ball, they've got to be really annoying to play against, because you're going to have to battle with those guys inside. You're going to have to try to defend without fouling, and then you also got to stay home and not give up those wide open kick out threes as part of that too. So that is a tough team. I think Pius against Papio South, that again, you mentioned, the further you get down in the brackets, the closer the 1s and 2s are. But the 6 and 7,
that was tough for me to kind of sort through as I looked at it, and because I think I would probably go with Prep in A6. Although if Northeast won, it wouldn't surprise me. Every other one, I feel like I have now maybe you like the matchup with Gretna and Southwest Lincoln Southwest potentially in A5, but I felt like 7, and as it should be, how seedings go, is the toughest for me to say, yep, I like them.
Yeah, agreed. Again, they work out this way. You look at probably the 4 through 7. I think all of those have a chance to be really interesting in the final. Elkhorn South and Central. I think that they played during the regular season. I think Central or Elkhorn South was controlling that game early, and then Central kind of came roaring back behind Jay Dawson, a big game, I believe, if I remember correctly. But like again, with the way Elkhorn South's playing, that's not a pushover either. If seedings hold there, so 4, 5, 6, 7, those all have a chance to create some really intriguing district final games.
All right, so you got to talk to me here. What are we playing for or looking for in Class B? The next closest to Scott? Or can anybody get Scott? How are you kind of looking at that?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I think Wednesday for the sub-district finals there, I think you've got potential for Scott girls and Elkhorn North rematch.
Which would be
and
fantastic.
Then Scott boys and Roncalli rematch. So honestly, that's like state title game right there.
Are you buying the 3 times in a row thing? If a team's just better, that's because Scott appears to just be better than Roncalli.
And that's the deal. They were kind of this round 2. They pulled away the first one right down to the wire. Round 2, they kind of controlled it pretty well. So let's put it this: if they do just kind of roll in that one, then yeah, good luck the rest of Class B.
Let me ask you something. Would you rather be playing for perfection or be the hunter?
Whew. I think I'd probably be playing for perfection because that means I probably got a pretty good roster. And chance to do something special. I think that obviously there's some pressure there, and you kind of worry about handling that. But at the same time, there's kind of the positive pressure. It's like, hey, we got a chance to do something special here. And especially if you're kind of a program that's used to winning, I think you do. You have played with big expectations before.
Hey, you think Coach Jay knows a thing or two about winning at Scott?
Yeah. And especially coming off of last year where I think they had a disappointing postseason showing for their standard. I think they're coming back here pretty fired up to make a deep run.
Well, gosh, we have to go fast. The fastest 30 minutes in sports. we will be back next week. We'll cover all the classes as we'll have a very good – we actually will know what we're getting for who the participants will be in Lincoln. Should be a ton of fun. We won't make any lofty predictions this week about how districts will go. We try to cap it as best we can. Don't you miss next week. That's Jacob Padilla. I'm Old DB. We'll be back next week with Nebraska Preps postgame.
Hurrdat Media Production.